Okay, so today we're going to be talking about paper 1, section A, and we're particularly looking at question 4. So question 4 is the longest comprehension response on the GCSE paper. It's worth 20 marks, so even its equivalent on paper 2 is only worth 16. So this is the highest weighted question on both papers, so therefore is one of the most important. So you're going to be treating it like a bit like a mini essay, more like a literature response. It's not double or triple the length of Q2 and 3. It isn't about that at all, but you do need to be writing in good depth. So you're looking at maybe a side and a half, 2 sides in your exam booklet. So this question is really designed to stretch you. It's really designed to challenge the most capable amongst of you. So it is just where you can show those perceptive responses. So question 4 is like all the other questions. Some of the bits stay the same, some of the bits will change. Okay, so we're going to have a look at an example question today. We're going to have a look at a lot of different things. So what you can see on the screen is actually one of my revision cards, which I'm uploading for you today as well. And it gives you a bit of detail about what you should be looking at for this question. So obviously it's worth 20 marks and you're looking to spend about 25 minutes, and it's an important question. So you are being asked to look at everything you've looked at for question 2 language and question 3 structure and put those together to evaluate a statement to see whether that you agree or disagree with something. As I've mentioned in class before, it is usually easier to agree with the statement. You know, the reviewer has made that statement for a reason. However, you can disagree, just make sure that you can back that up. So we'll have a look at an example question 4 here. So the questions do build on each other, so it's a good idea to do them in the correct order. So, you know, sometimes people want to start with question 4 because it's worth 20 marks and they're worried about running out of time. But your understanding of question 2 and question 3 is really going to help you here. So by the time you get to question 4, you should have picked out those language and structural devices. You shouldn't need to go back too much because you should know the extract fairly well. So what you should always do is answer in the correct order. Just make sure you allocate the correct timing. So question 1, 5 marks. Question 1, 5 minutes. Question 2, 10 to 12. Question 3, 10 to 12. Question 4, 20 to 25. Make sure you're allocating the right amount of time. So you're going to get a statement. Okay, so it's going to say something like, focus this part of your answer on the second part of the source from line 19 to the end. Okay, and then they will give you a statement. A student, having read this section of the text, said, the writer brings the very different characters to life for the reader. It is as if you were inside the coach with them. All right, so we don't know whether this is a real statement or not, or whether it's been made up. The important thing is that you are going to be looking at whether you agree with this student. Does the writer indeed bring the characters to life? Does it feel like you're inside the coach with them? Okay, so you will then decide whether you agree or not. In most cases, you will definitely agree. So like we've looked at in class this week with, you know, Harrison Bergeron and the ballerinas, it is definitely sad that the people are treated that way. So for the most part, you're going to agree with the biggest mistake you can make on this question is to treat it like an argument. You're not trying to catch the student out. You're not trying to disprove the statement. You're not trying to argue about it. What you're basically trying to do is you're trying to see whether you can back up your ideas with the evidence that you've been given from the text. It's really quite simple. So you will be given 3 bullet points, and these largely do not change. So it says you could write about your impressions of the characters. You can evaluate how the writer has created these impressions. You can support your opinions with references to the text. These are not essential. They are just guidance. They are structure. You don't have to follow those bullet points if you don't want. Okay, you can use them as a sort of plan if you wish to. However, it's just advice. It's just suggestions. What you should be doing is following the structure that we've learnt in class. You should make sure that you respond to the statement and comment on it. You should support your ideas with quotes from the text and identify the methods that are being used within there. And then you should evaluate the effects of those methods. Do those methods make you feel like you were inside the coach with the characters? Do those methods make you feel like the characters have come to life? Okay, so that's what you should be doing. And then at the end, effectively giving a summary of whether overall the writer has done what the student said they've done. Have they brought the characters to life? Do you feel like you're inside the coach with them? So just to reiterate, this question is basically asking you to respond to that statement. You are then supposed to discuss the writer's methods that prove or disprove that statement. You are going to back those up with quotes from the text, and you're going to evaluate the methods that the writers use. Do those methods make the characters come to life? Do you feel like you're in the coach with them? Okay, so ultimately what the question is asking you, what are the ideas in the text and how has the writer conveyed them? So basically, how are you being assessed? I'm guessing that's what you want to know. So what are these exam markers looking for? What do they want to see you do? So firstly, they want to see that you've responded to that statement. So that's why so many people can get 10 marks on this, half marks, without really talking about methods. If you have responded to the statement, you've done half of what you're supposed to do. So you need to make sure you do that. So have you talked about in your answer how the characters come to life for the reader? Have you talked about whether you were inside the coach with them? So you've got to make sure you respond to those two things. So you want to be using the words on the question quite frequently. In other words, you want to say why you agree with that. So I agree that the writer brings these characters life because of this. I agree that we feel like we're inside the coach with them because of that. Okay, so that's the first thing that you want to do. You then want to make sure though that you've talked about the methods. So I agree the character comes to life because the way the writer describes the characters using similes, metaphors, adjectives, dialogue, internal thoughts, whatever those techniques is, that's the second part of the answer. So have you responded to the statement? Have you talked about the writer's methods? And remember, they can be language or structural. Okay. A massive part of this is the way that you respond to the quotes. Okay, so you're going to say, I agree the characters come to life because of this quote. It's what you do with that quote that counts. Okay, so what details have you picked out from that quote? I am looking for how precisely you've looked at that quote. Don't be picking big long chunks. Remember, I want those precise, short, embedded quotations. Are they relevant? Do they match the point of view? Do they back up what you've been saying? So you very much want to, from that quote, pick a really, really good quote. Remember the highest leverage quote, and then you want to talk about the writer's methods. So the writer's methods is anything that the writer does. It could be the tone, it could be the structure of the piece, it could be choice of words, it could be repetition, it could be absolutely anything. Okay, so you can talk about anything you like. My advice though is to watch out for things like sentence length and sentence structure, because I don't think that really helps you here, but it's very much what are the words doing, what are the individual words doing. So overall, you need to talk about how the writer has crafted his piece using methods to make the characters come to life and make the reader feel as if they're inside the quotes in the coach with these people. All right. Okay, so what does AQA say about this question? AQA say the key skill for question 4 is evaluation, both in the ideas in the source in relation to the given statement and also the methods used by the writer used to convey these ideas, which fully backs up my view that this is a two-part kind of mark scheme. So the biggest error that students make is that many of them fail to address the methods. They dealt with the what but not the how. So most students say, yep, I completely agree, these characters come alive, I feel like I'm there with them, blah, blah, blah. But they don't actually say the writer does that by using this technique. The writer makes me feel like I'm in the coach with them because they did this. So that is going to cap you at 10 marks. So if you do not talk about the writer's methods and the writer's techniques, you are stuck at 10 marks. So remember, it's a 20-mark question. This question is worth 25% of your paper. So you need to make sure you're evaluating the writer's methods. Okay, so you're evaluating the significance of your evidence. How does the evidence, so your quotations, help answer this question? How do the quotations that you've picked show that the characters come to life, and what methods have been employed within them? Okay, so this is just an example of what your answer might look like. So we've done this in class this week, and it's just a reminder. So the first thing we said we were going to do is we were going to agree with the statement, or and say why we agree with the statement. So I agree with this statement. The writer creates interesting characters that come to life for the reader and make the reader feel as if they're in the coach with them. Firstly, the writer describes the old fellow who had kept up a constant complaint first. He is clearly very on edge, and is a character not afraid to voice his opinion as he hurls abuse at the driver, cursing him in a high, petulant voice. The use of the verb cursing shows that he's extremely angry, possibly using swear words, and the fact that the author describes the man's voice with a high pitch shows he is panicked about the situation and he's worried for his safety, as a person's voice raising in pitch is a result of that. This description does bring the character alive as we get a sense of his personality and emotion. So this response is clearly responding to the statement. It's identified the methods that the writer's it's commented on the effect of those methods, and it's linked it back to the statement. So it's done everything that it needs to do. So my advice is to make sure that you respond to the statement, use short embedded quotations, identify the writer's methods, comment on the effect of the reader, and link it back to that statement. Good luck.